If you run into trouble where you're drawing and you kind of lose yourself, just stop, wipe it all off, all the ink off, and take a real close look at where you're at. Especially if you drew a pen, sometimes you lose some of the ballpoint pen lines, so you may want to stop and redraw them on there. This is the same thing here. We got a small leaf on this, and then we got a big one here, so we're going to change that. Kind of almost follow the old one, and then bring it out a little bit wider. And this is the easy part up here because there's nothing that's covering, so you just follow it around. It's usually better when you're doing a cover-up to use a little thicker outline. Some people like to outline all the time with 5 needle outliners, or I use a lot of 3 outlining needles. This one, I'm using a 5 on here because the heavier lines will define this new tattoo a lot better than having some real fine line work over it. We're almost done here with the outline. I'm going to spray this off and we're going to look at it, and then what you want to make sure is that all the old tattoo is covered up. You know, if you have a little piece anywhere that might be sticking out, you can always add an extra leaf here or there. Okay, now we're going to shade this piece out with some black shading in here. I'm using a 7 shader, a round shader. It's going to be important in here to go through over some of the outlines and stuff to darken them up a little bit before you put the color in. Especially where this old tattoo is, I'm going to bring out some black shading in this piece. If you remember looking at the color picture, there wasn't a real lot of black shade on this bottom of these flowers, but we're gonna give it more shadow than it had in the picture, because it'll help cover up some of these. The guy that did this tattoo used a real thick needle to outline a small piece, so he's got some real heavy lines in here. We want to get rid of some of that. So the black shading will cover up some of those heavy black lines that he had, and it'll make this piece look more three-dimensional. Just going to pull in and out and get rid of some of this. I'll show you where I covered up that old one right in there. You can see where the top of that old rose was. Start with some black in there and just kind of pull it out real soft, and it'll cover up some of those heavy black outlines, and it'll add a little definition to this one. You don't have to worry about covering the whole thing with black either. I'm only doing this one, and the way I set this new stencil on here, I've got the old tattoo towards the bottom of the flowers because that's where the darkest shading is. So you got to kind of think of when you place that new stencil on. I wouldn't want those roses right in the middle of these flowers where I want the light colors on the top. I want those to be clean colors and be able to see them. In the middle of the new flowers here, it doesn't matter if there's shadows down in there. You just kind of go through the whole thing looking where you want to add some shadows. If you think some of the color is going to be too dark to cover up with what you have, just put some shadows in there. Just don't go crazy with the black. People tend to think that black is the only thing that covers up tattoos. The only time you need black to cover up a tattoo, solid black, is if A, you don't know what you're doing, or B, the thing is so dark that there's no other alternative. You can still go in here with some white even if you had to, and put some white over some of these colors and let them heal. Have the customer come back in a couple weeks and redo them. White will pretty much cover up 1 or 2 hits of white. You can cover up even solid black old tattoos. If you watch some of our other videos that we have, you'll see we talked all about shading and black and gray shading on some of those other videos, and if you watch those, you'll know pretty much what we're doing on this one too for cover-up. So all those things you can bring in when you're doing a cover-up. These are some of the harder things to do, so you want to know all those different techniques. We're just going to add a little bit of soft shadow on the bottom side of this flower here. Seeing that we use some of that black shadowing on the bottom, we're going to use a little bit on the top so it all matches when it's done.